Hello, guitar player. I'm Danny from the band Kongos. We're here in San Bruno, right? Is that right?
It's San Bruno.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna walk you through the "Take It From Me" riff and solo. I actually didn't write the "Take It From Me" riff. Jesse, our drummer, wrote it because he plays some guitar and he's very particular about timing and that kind of stuff. I played it on the record, but he wrote it when he wrote the song. So it's just an F sharp pentatonic thing, which is mostly fourths and fifths. You can hear it here. It's a little bass thing we double up. That's something we always do on records, is double guitar and bass on single notes, just to give the bass line some top end and stuff like that. That's basically it for a lot of the song. If you go listen to it or YouTube it or whatever, you'll see that. So Jesse, he wrote the song and he played me a demo and he said, I want you to play this riff. And he's always influenced by a lot of these kind of township African guitar players. So he plays everything super stiff, always playing like the fifths and the fourths evenly together, which is something they do. So I basically took it and made it a little more delta, a little more delta blues. Moved it up an octave occasionally, that kind of thing. But it wasn't really modified much from what he did. I kind of contributed the slide stuff to the record in terms of the writing. I don't think I played it like this on the record, but live I use a pitch pedal that I put on a mix. I put the expression pedal on the mix, so I can mix in an octave, which is pretty handy because I can play in a lower range, which is easier live. You don't have to be as accurate. So yeah, the solo sounds like this. But on the record, it's just up there. It's just a pain in the ass doing that when you're running around and shit. I'm not accurate like Derek Trucks, so yeah. That's that.
And then, were there any influences for that solo? Was that just out of your head, or were you trying to evoke something when you?
With that stuff, with slide solos, I always go for a vocal quality. The powerful thing about the slide is the fact that you can float around a note, that you don't have to, that you can be under the note in a cool way. I never like when people do those slow bluesy and they bend and they really, very few guys can pull that off in my opinion, maybe Freddie King. But with slide, for some reason, shit that sounds cheesy fingered sounds cool on slide. So slide just, I don't know, it's something magic about it. Yeah. So my live rig currently is, I use the big version of this, the 45 bass breaker and a supersonic, and I run it in dual mono, so wet and dry. It's not really stereo, everything gets panned mono, but I run all my dirty effects through the bass breaker, and I'll run like clean reverbs and delays and stuff through the supersonic, and I use a Helix to kind of manage all that. So it's really, really easy. Like the Helix is pretty amazing in terms of patching and all that. Whatever you want to send to your left channel, you can easily put on that side, and then you can I like putting like a clean sound with a delay behind the dirty sound, which allows it to sit in the mix more easily. And then I use I think it's a Shure 313 ribbon mic on the bass breaker, and that's one thing we've found is that single mics are just easy to manage in recording and live, so you don't have to deal with all the phase issues that come with multiple mics on an amp. I think that's it. I use external pedals. I use like an MXR FET driver, a Boss OD2, and a Swollen Pickle for my fuzz, and those just go in the Helix. Guitar wise, I use mostly a Strat for the whole show. It's an American standard, but it's the one with the two kind of vintage humbuckers. I think they released it a year or two ago. I can't remember. And then for one track, I use a Gretsch baritone, and I have a lot of guitars, but I don't find a use for them live generally, mostly in recording.
And then, so for the recording, did you bring any of your collection in for certain parts, or?
Of gear?
Yeah. I mean, did you use?
For recording, we use everything. Like our tour manager has got a great collection of amps he lent us. So I used it's largely a Champ amp on Solo Sounds, because that already has got this perfect kind of EQ curve on it. As soon as you put a mic in front of it and put it in a mix, you don't have to do much to it. There's a Chandler, which is this weird Class A amp that you can pretty much get every British sound out of it. So we put that through I can't remember what we used with that. I think we used a Blues Breaker cabinet with that, and it sounded nice. And then a Supersonic for the deluxe, which is basically a deluxe channel. So those are the three main amps going on in the record.
And switching out guitars, did you stick with the Strat on the record, or did you use a lot of different guitars?
Guitars on the record range from mostly a Strat. I use mostly a Strat, but it's actually my dad's 61 Strat. It's got some kind of history in it that sounds nice for some reason. But then also a 54 Les Paul, also his. All the good guitars are his. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, a Gretsch Country Gentleman. Yeah, for some of the more lush, warm parts we use that, which is a really beautiful guitar.
Okay, and let's see. For the record, how do you approach layering parts? Because there's some nice, broad, guitar layers on it. Do you any particular thing? Do you like? What I'm trying to say. Cast which guitars or which amps do what, or is it just a matter of working your way through the tones? Or?
In terms of layering guitar sounds, we try not to layer in the same range. That's generally what I generally like a single guitar sound. I don't like layered riffs that much. If we layer it, we'll layer it with a distorted bass or with a synth part or an accordion part. Like accordion and guitar really mash up well. They take up a similar range, and you can just pan them, and they sound, they fill out that range. And then we layer, higher parts or kind of atmospheric parts for sure. We'll put that on top as well. And then in terms of getting the right sound, it's mostly trial and error. I mean, you want that kind of punchy, clean thing, or you want something warm or gritty. But a lot of times, until you hear it in the mix, you're not quite sure what you were going for. So it's a lot of just like running around plugging stuff in and out.
Anything about the songwriting you'd want to talk about from a guitar standpoint?
When it comes writing on guitar is, for me, it's just practical because you can take it anywhere. I wrote some stuff on keyboard. I'm a terrible keyboard player, but it's also a beautiful instrument for writing. But guitar, you can be in a hotel room and just quickly come up with something. So in that sense, you can do it, all on your own, work out the whole song by yourself with one instrument and without even an amp or any other extra gear or, that kind of stuff. We demo a lot though, so a lot of times I'll have written a verse on a guitar, and you'll get that verse going in Digital Performer, which is what we use, or whatever you use, and then you start kind of working, kind of crafting it out, I guess. In my case, stumbling around until something happens.
What do you think are some of the creative elements that make the Kongos, such an identifiable sound? Where do you think your influences kind of, came up and morphed into, how you approach the guitar, where it's totally you?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if it is totally me. I mean, for me, my influences are so apparent to me that I oftentimes hear where I got something, or got a style. So in terms of the Kongos sound, that's fairly unique. If you actually listen to our dad's music, you can hear a lot of influence. He took like certain African rhythms and mixed them with, at the time it was almost like glam rock. So we've been influenced by Delta blues stuff, a lot of traditional township, Maskandi type pop. It's like township pop music from South Africa, which you can hear. You can hear that kind of stuff on Graceland, or Paul Simon was like the first guy to go there and realize what a, well of amazing music was coming out of there. In terms of guitar stuff, Jeff Beck was the first guy to get me into guitar for sure, and I've been trying to steal from him ever since then.
Something interesting I'd like to get to, if we could, is that you mentioned that the township sound, and what you guys have been able to do is kind of like what your dad did, is put it in like a pop context. So I mean, how did you come to be able to take the that influence and figure out how to make it something Western? I guess, is that fair?
Well, I think it's partially Western to begin with, because it's a lot of Western instruments that made their way down there. So, it's not, I don't know where traditional music begins and where it ends, because this music's been going on forever and everybody's been getting instruments from everywhere forever. So, like, South African township music uses a lot of accordion and guitar and grooves that are so immediate. The weird thing that they do in terms of, for Westerners, is like flip the beat, or they'll start a fill and you think you have an idea of where the one is and you just have zero idea, and it's the coolest thing ever when it comes in. So in terms of making that kind of pop song, rock song based, we write the songs, and then the production is where the sound comes from, where we allow our influences from all over to enter. But the song is usually just, a song.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to say about your, yourself, or your tone technique, or the record, or the band that we haven't talked about?
No, I mean, in terms of, if you like my guitar playing, you should go check out Blake Mills, because that guy's the shit. That guy's fucking good. That's the best guitarist I've seen in a long time.
I don't know if we know of him. Where's he from?
Blake Mill, I think he's from Malibu, which is weird because you don't expect somebody from Malibu to sound like that. He produced the Lost Alabama Shakes record, I think. I don't know much about him either. He was opening for the band Dawes, the band Dawes, and it was one of the best shows I've seen. Really good slide guitarist. You can hear Derek Trucks in there. Derek Trucks has taken a lot from Indian music. There's a mandolin player called U Srinivas. If you go listen to that stuff, you'll hear a bunch of Derek Trucks in it.